ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to something a little bit different. We're taking a look at Slipways today, a game that I am legitimately really excited about. So, as always, I am your host with the most, TheChronicToast, and we're going to take a look at just what is Slipways? What is this game? Now, full transparency, the developer did provide a key to play and review the game with no restrictions on my reviews and feedback, so thank you to the developer. This game is a lot of fun. I'm excited to go through this review, go through this introduction, this deep dive, as it were, on just what the heck is this and why you should care. Why should you go out and check this out? Of additional note is that this game is going to be going into closed beta on Steam in April, and there is a link in the signups in the description below if you are interested in that. So, bottom line up front, before we dive into this video, just to kind of set the scene, if you like problem solving or making complicated engines and games, I'm talking about card draw mechanisms in Dominion, Power Grid, mob spawners in Minecraft, or trying to get a high efficiency in Factorio, this is a game I highly recommend adding to your Steam wishlist and to dive on in and sink your teeth into when it comes out. If this doesn't sound like something you'd normally be interested in, still give it a look with an open mind, but it might not be quite up your alley. So, the question is, what is it? So in this game, you're turning desolate planets into a vast trade empire. You're hatching plans, research game-breaking technologies. That's the goal. Enjoy the endless possibilities of a space grand strategy game in 60 minutes flat. This game plays relatively quick compared to the scope and the scale of what you're diving into, and it's pretty darn cool. So on top of that, the world kind of got a first look at this modern version, this incarnation, this awesome version of Slipways during the Steam Game Festival back in February, when they first got a chance to really play it through a demo, and it received a large amount of praise and high reviews through a number of online publications for web articles from well-known locations. That's kind of where I learned first about this game, and I got really excited about it. And here we are today. So in terms of the history, Slipways is the brainchild of Jakub Wasilewski, aka Beetlewing, depending on when and where you've learned of this developer and of the game. The game was born out of a love-hate relationship with games in the space 4X genre. While their depth is admirable, it usually paired with a lot of micromanagement, a big time investment. We're talking, Sins of a Solar Empire style of investments that are out there for 4X stuff, which could be many, many hours, or Galactic Civilizations 3, a lot of other games that are out there in that 4X genre, where there is a large amount of time investment and a high barrier to entry. You got to learn how to play the game. The original goal for Slipways, however, was to make a game that could deliver the same kick, but with much less hassle. This was the starting point, but the resulting game bridges the 4X, management, and puzzle genres to offer its own unique blend of gameplay, which I think you're going to enjoy quite significantly. Slipways aims to stay simple and easy to grasp, and I think it does that very, very well, while maintaining the feeling of growth and the depth of larger titles. Now, this is something that I'm really, really excited about because it lives up to that hype. It really makes you think. It really makes you work through some scenarios in a way that is very, very rewarding, which is pretty darn cool. Now, this started as a Pico 8 game living within the confines of the 128 by 128 pixel screen of that fantasy console, which you can play a lot of those here through different internet browsers, so on and so forth. Now, Jakub has some notoriety as a Pico 8 developer for creating games such as Dank Tomb, The Lair, and numerous demos for the system, including an early game version of Slipways, which you can find down at the link located down in the description below. If you want to go and check that game out, it's pretty darn awesome. I highly encourage you to kind of take a look at where this game has come from in terms of history. Now, it's a full-fledged PC game is what we're taking a look at today. Slipways is not just this little 128 by 128 pixel screen. This is impressive stuff, and I'm really, really excited to share it with you and show you how this rolls through. It's awesome. It's larger in scope, but it's still true to the core ideas of simplicity and straightforward but deep gameplay. And it's still developed full-time by a single person, which is even more impressive, with a few pieces of help from other contributors. We're talking about music and audio from Chris Donnelly and some awesome character art by Johan Tornlund, which is pretty darn cool. So before we dive in, what are the features that are included in the game? These are important to know, as well as what additional features are going to be included at launch. So we're taking a look at the beta today, and there's a few items that are not quite in there yet, and we'll go over what those are. So, what are the features? It's easy to learn and hard to master, letting you start in 15 minutes from your very first time getting into the game, learning kind of how to work through that. And we're going to cover some of that later on in today's video as well. but still being able to discover new stuff 30 hours in, which is pretty awesome. Trade-based gameplay is the second item, where each connection matters and planning is crucial. There are 5 alien races with separate technologies, missions, and technological outlets, basically different philosophies that can impact how your game plays and how the different technology that you dive into gets unlocked and made available to you that really affects how you play. Now, speaking of that, there are 70 plus technologies that change your whole game instead of just a single number. We're talking about core concepts on how the game works rather than just this is a little bit more efficient, that's a little bit slower, whatever it may be. Now, what's really cool is there's a randomized technology tree for increased replayability, which I have experienced. It's a really, really nice feature, as well as procedurally generated planets and galaxies, which the endless variety, it just looks really, really good, which is nice. Now, diving into stuff that is not yet implemented, but is coming up here prior to the game fully launching. We're talking about sector and planet modifiers to make each run that you play through a little bit different, kind of giving you the feeling that you're in a different, unique area of the cosmos. Campaign modes, endless modes, daily runs, and challenge modes to let you play your own way. I'm really excited about these because right now we have traditionally the default way to play Slipways that you see originally back in the Pico 8 game version, which is creating a cool empire in 25 years or less. And we'll talk about that, what that means in game. And last but not least, you're diving into asteroids, ancient ruins, space rips, nebulas, supernova anomalies, and tons of other interesting stuff to find. I'm really, really excited. Uncovering new things as you explore is always really exciting. So, with that, let's dive into the game itself and see how it plays. What do we have here when we log into the beginning of the screen? Once the game is all started up, what do we have access to? We can dive right on into starting a new game, which we'll look at here in just a moment. But I highly encourage you to take a quick perusal through Learn to Play. Click on this, and you'll have access to this, all of these features here within the game itself, so forth. And we're going to kind of go through that here in a brief little bit as well. Taking a look here at settings, also, this is not very complicated, which is really, really nice. So, of course, we've got it by default in borderless windows, so we can click off and do different stuff with our recording software. You may want to set this up differently in your own computer, but this works out rather well. Resolution for me is at 1440p. This will be downsampled when recording to 1080p. And, of course, we've got our master volume turned down just a little bit to kind of mesh well with our recording. Now, UI scaling is going to be your best friend if you've got a certain laptop situation where, let's say, you've got a 4K or a 6K style screen, but your laptop is only 12 inches by 6 inches in size. A lot of times, certain games and applications don't scale very well. I have tested this on my a little bit of an older rig, which has that problem, and going through the UI scaling solves that. Being able to adjust this up or down in order to make everything fit on the screen correctly, even when after going in through and messing with the resolution, works wonders. So kudos to the developer. That is a fantastic feature between resolution and UI scaling. This is going to work well with whatever system you want to set up with this. So we're going to accept that. It's going to be good to go. And the last option here is, of course, quit desktop, or go down here and go through all the links for Discord, Twitter, email, as well as adding the wish list on Steam. So let's dive on in by starting a new game. Here it is. All you can see all the different options that are available. The standard run is what we have access to today. Just you, undeveloped space, and 25 years to make it into a thriving society. Effectively, you are the governor over this new region of space, and you've got 25 years to see, can you pull this off? Can you make this work? We want to make sure, at least for this particular situation, we want to be unforgiving so that we can go and kind of show you all the different aspects that we're going to dive through on this game. If you want to make it more difficult and challenging and tough, you can scale that right on up, but it is going to slow your thought process down a little bit, at least until you get through the game as you take a look at all the different pieces and how they fit. I've found that this game is really relaxing, just working through problems that can, in fact, be solved, which is really exciting. So we're going to click on the standard run. We're going to see what we have next. Here are the 5 alien races that we talked about briefly, and each one of these are going to affect your gameplay and what we go through. So for up front, we're going to deal with the Bakar. And, they're pretty cool. They've got some really cool, stuff. They've got crystals growing out of the face, which I think at first glance is weird, but second glance, this looks really cool. The aesthetic-wise, I'm just picturing they have like a big giant cigar or something. They're pretty interesting individuals. But you can see down here that some of the resources and level 1 tech that you can get access to as you start out are gravitic mining and gravity tugs. And these are research points that you will eventually be able to generate and allow you to do different things. For example, gravity tugs allow you to move planets. That's pretty darn cool. And gravitic mining down here, increases the value of exploited asteroids by a lot, which we're going to see how that works. But you can see you have perks to do different things different ways. For example, prospectors, 15% of empty signals become asteroids. Every now and then when you send probes out, you'll run across, it's just an empty signal, it's not actually correct, but it will actually allow you to get something out of that instead, a little bit more often than normal. Otherwise, you have the power grid option over here, which planets receiving energy, which we'll talk about in a bit, have production increased by 1 unit and earn 30% more income. For us, because we're going to be showing through a couple different ways, I want to make sure that we can get a look at how the asteroids currently are set up and how they're going to work. Plus, we can get the increased value from those exploited asteroids by 30% right off the bat without doing any extra resources, which is pretty cool. Now, the second option we have over here, I think we're probably going to go with the Dendar. Not really sure how it works. They're basically I Am Groot people. They look awesome, and they look like they're kind of like, got the Greek toga style things going on, which is pretty good. Think of Sophocles as a Groot. That's pretty awesome. So you can see down here they've got bacterial seeding, which allows you to unlock the ability to do stuff with certain planets that would otherwise be something that you can't really mess with. This allows you to really do a little bit of terraforming, which is pretty cool. Asteroid inhabitation, which is pretty awesome. Now down here, of course, planets producing people or wheat pay no upkeep, which is pretty cool. That's going to help you keep a lot of money in the bank. Or you can have food synthesis, words are hard, on Forge World planets, which usually don't have a lot of other means to generate stuff other than very specialized resources. And we'll see how that works here in a little bit as well. So we're going to click on that and we're going to see how this goes. These all are different depending on every single playthrough you go through, which is pretty awesome. Now the last question is going to be, what do we want to pick? The Euphorians, the Vitari, or the Silithid? The Silithid have some really cool tech that allows you to do different things with, slipways and do different things, but we're going to try out the Euphorians. They look pretty cool. They're kind of like the Shadow Brokers from Mass Effect, but they're a full race of just them. Plus, they've got that Mysterio-style helmet going on, which I'm a huge fan of. Now, you can see down here for their level 1 tech, Gene Adjustment reduces planetary upkeep, or Wave Augmentation increases the maximum range of the slipways, so you can get a little bit more reach in connecting planets together, which is cool. Well prepared, we get an extra 40C at the start of the scenario, or planets giving your square resource here earn 25% more income. We're going to go with this. We want some more money up front. We've got 3 races, 2 perks. We're all right. So we're going to start that game. We're going to dive on in. And here it is. This is the region of space that we are beginning to colonize. There's a lot of black stuff around there. We see a big giant galactic center or a wormhole that we just popped out of. How do we do what we do? What do we need? Where do we even start? So the first thing that you're often going to want to do is probably send out probes. But before we do that, I kind of want to familiarize yourself with what we have going on here. Up here over the hearts, this is going to be the happiness of all of your planetary structures. This is not cumulative. This is reviewed every single turn as it is. And so you want to make sure that your happiness stays high. That increases your score at the end of the day. If the happiness value gets too low, you might actually get voted out before your 25 years is up. Over here is going to be your science. This is going to track your current value, which is cumulative of how much science you have generated, as well as how much science you're generating every turn, as it were. So you can kind of get a gauge on how soon you can get those upgrades rolling into your hands. As well as the wealth, we have 190 Seabills or credits over there, and this is what we use to send out everything from maintenance costs to sending out the cost of probes, and we'll tackle that as well. This is what we have, and this is how much we're currently generating. Over here is going to be the current date, 12 months remaining until the end of the year, 25 years until the end of our term. If you need to, you can always skip forward in time, and that'll generate a little bit more money once you have planets here. If you're ever low on funds, you can just skip on forward, or you can hit that undo button. Now, what we'll see here is when you get to the end of your first year, you have missions available, which you can select and do different things. These are the missions from the races that you've selected earlier on, which allow you to unlock additional rewards and additional tech and additional cool things. We're going to dive into that here a little bit later. So you can see that we can't go back now because we've already gone forward 1 year. That's all right. There's certain things like sending out probes, which we're going to do next, that you can't roll back from because you're already discovering extra things. So we'll dive into these individuals up here. You can see what their levels are for the techs and their goals and what they want you to do mission-wise, as well as the general rating of your empire. Right now, you're fledgling empire. Your credit administration costs are 0 per each planet per year, and once you get more and more planets in your system, those costs will go up. Down here, you have access to additional structures that you can build in between planets. These right here are laboratories. These are where you will place these down and send different planets which export people, researchers, as it were. and you can plug in additional resources to generate a lot of that scientific research that you get going on up here that you can use to unlock stuff. And down here is where you click on to get all that scientific research. Once you have enough points, you can begin researching bacterial seeding, asteroid dwellings, gravitic tugs, and there's other items down here that are locked. Now keep in mind that this is level 1 technology. Once we have enough of these invented, we will be able to go to level 2 technologies. But once we go to level 2, we lose access to level 1. So what that means is you can't just keep trying to research everything. At some point, you're going to research certain things, and you're going to lose access to the first things, and you're going to gain new things that you can research moving forward. That's an important aspect of the game you need to keep in mind. Down here, going into your current score, this is going to show you a bit more of where we are. As your planetary empire grows, you're going to get more points down here, times 100% of your happiness value, and ours right now is 100%. If this goes down to 94 or 75, you're only going to get that multiplier. This can go above 100, by the way, which is pretty darn awesome. Now, down here is Esteem. So every single planetary setup that we've got, you get, completed missions and stuff with your races. You get different scores for that, as well as planets. Now, what this means for getting an established planet or a successful planet or a prosperous planet all has to deal with, do you have all of their needs met and all their ability to export stuff tackled? Are they being fully utilized? And as you go through that, they become established. They then become successful because they've gotten all of their resources being managed properly. And if you get a planet connected to 3 successful planetary systems, it then becomes prosperous, which is worth a lot more points. Now, lastly, down here is what we talked about earlier. If you are ever lost or ever confused and trying to figure out what you want to do, just come on over here and you can work through all of these items down here. Again, this is all in-game. You don't have to dive out of your game, take a look at it, and dive back in. It's all integrated, which is a really, really nice feature, and I'm very appreciative to the developer for that. So, we've talked a lot about what we have on the screen. We've talked about a lot of stuff. What do we actually do with this game? When do we actually start playing the game? That is right now. So, we're going to be sending out probes. Now, you can see this is going to cost us 3 credits right off the bat, and it's going to advance the timeline by 1 month. We're in January of 3402. This will bump us out to February 3402 right off the bat. Now you can say, well, why don't I just send out planetary probes as far out as I can? You can see right here, I can't go any further. So from our central wormhole, as well as from planetary bodies, once you go through and you are able to colonize those, you can then expand this region further. And we'll kind of show you what that looks like. So we're sending out a probe here, and we're discovering a few different planetary bodies. Let's say I want to go beyond Demeter 1X over there. I still can't go anymore, and that's because I need to come over here and click on this. Now, we did see a sensor item up here that ghosted away. It didn't go anywhere. It was just a mistake. So, an error in our sensor logs. So we're going to take here and we can click on different planetary systems. And once we do, we want to decide, how do we want to colonize them? What do we want to do? You can click on them. You can see what options you have available as well, which is pretty nice. Or you can always click on the Alt button, hold that down on your keyboard, and you can see kind of what do these planetary systems potentially set up for trade routes? So it looks like over here you can export people. This one can export robots over here. I think that's AI technology, not really sure. But this can take people in and export robots. And this over here can, send people out, which is going to be useful, which is going to be nice. So we're going to do that. We're going to set this to a hive world. It's going to send out 2 sets of researchers, but it's going to need wheat. It's going to need food. So that you can see there that this advanced our timeline by 3 months. We have a cost of 1 and upkeep, and our happiness has dropped on down. So in order to feed this population, we're going to need to find somewhere that can feed these people wheat, which is important. But what we do know already is over here, this particular planetary system, we can generate this and set it up to generate, robots, which is pretty awesome. What else can we do up here? This takes people and generates crystal, which is another resource that we have access to, which is pretty good to go. That's pretty important to know about. So we're going to go over here and set this to a scavenger world, and we're going to drag this slipway all the way over to this planet. You can see it's going to cost 3 credits as well as advance by 1 month. We're going to click on that, and you can see that trade is going from one planet over to the other. Now, we're going to run into a situation where at some point you will get trade going both ways. Let's say that this planetary system produced people, and this took people and it produced wheat. This is something that this planet needed. If that were the case, you would see traffic going both directions. You can have that happen on a single slipway. They are not one-way only adventures, which is pretty cool. We're going to come up here and colonize this, and it's going to need people. We've advanced a year because of the amount of time it's taken, and we're going to bump this up there, take another 1 month. There it is. And now you can see that these planets here, they're established. They're good to go. This right here, they are not very happy. And the reason being is they need food. It's an unmet basic need. So how can we handle this? Well, because we have the situation, we can't really go further out here. You can see the limitation is the wormhole, but as we bump out over here, suddenly we're able to send things further from the planetary bodies that we have. So we're going to try to see what we have nearby, send this probe on out and see what we have access to. We have an asteroid here, which we can't do much with right now based on our colonization technology, but we can click on and exploit it for credits, get that back into our coffers, bumping that back up, which is good. You can see we're generating 6 credits every year, which is important to know. So what do we have up here? Lava, we can't do anything with that yet. Ice ball, we can't do anything with that yet. And mineral. So we could dive into this. We could generate another people to red crystal situation, but we have no people to send over there. And if we colonize this right now, people are just going to be a little bit unhappy. So let's say that, we go to try to colonize this. Oh, we did that. Oh, man, I'm recognizing some stuff. Oh, crap, I didn't want to do that. Oh, that's a bummer. That's just going to bring down our production. It's making people unhappy. You can always come up here and press the undo button and step on back. And you can keep going back even further. If you want to, you can see that the asteroid is back, but the probes are still already spent. So we're going to go back there, re-exploit that asteroid, and see what else we have access to. We didn't want to colonize that. What else do we have available to us? What about these 3 planetary systems over here? We have a water world. That's pretty cool. This will end up producing wheat, which is awesome. And it's pretty awesome because right here you can see we have bots available, which is pretty cool. You can see that there are a lot of opportunities here. You can see exporting people over to that planet, receiving red crystal back, so on and so forth. I think this is going to be a good one here. We're going to colonize this, taking in robotics and producing wheat. So that means the robotics come on in, making this sustained. And this one is going to bring wheat up there, and we'll be good to go. Now, something else that you have noticed most likely is, hey, didn't this not exist before? I thought we already had met all of our needs. I thought we had already met all of our goods. That's what's particularly cool. Once you get colonies set up and scheduled and squared away, they then begin to level up. They then have new needs that can be met for them to be successful. And so once planetary bodies are set up to where they're, bringing in and exporting, a combination of 3 things and all that other fun stuff, they can potentially be satisfied, right? They're going to be good to go, and they're going to see this here expand to the next item. We're going to click on this planet, and we're going to see what we need to do. Effects over here, we have a trade income. We are earning 14 credits from this, and the upkeep cost is 1. The unemployment is 1% because we have people that are not being utilized. Now, anytime you've got a planetary system that's set up where you have researchers that aren't being used, you're going to have a little bit of a hit to your unhappiness. Now, over here, we set this up at level 1. It needed wheat. It's going to export and produce 2 researchers. And now we have wheat and an additional resource over there, the square, and it's producing more. And level 3 plus, it just produces more and more and more researchers. So right now, next level to be successful, we need to get an extra resource to require and at least 2 more import nodes, and we'll be good to go. We're going to click out of that. So what can we do to handle that? There's not really anything nearby that we can easily do that's going to help us with that in terms of generating the sorts of things that we need. And unfortunately, your paths can only go so far. See out here, if I want to connect a planetary system, it can only go out there so far. So before we dive into more and kind of working through this scenario, what do we have for missions that are available? We talked about this briefly before. So what do we have here that we can tackle? So if we need to get one more red rock producing planets to successful, we'll be good to go. Now that's not established. That is successful. Once we do, we'll get some extra abilities over there, some extra rewards. Or we can select get one more people producing planets to successful. This could be worthwhile. I'm going to select this one. We need to select at least 2. And lastly, establish 1 more pairs of planets with 2-way trade between them. We talked about that a little bit earlier. So we're going to click on that. I think we can make that work. We're going to accept those missions. They're going to disappear, and we're going to see what we have to tackle. Now, something to note down here is we are producing additional red ore, and we are producing people down here. So we could do something interesting. And earlier we talked about not going up and setting this up, but we're going to use this to make something pretty cool. We're going to come down here, and we are likely going to click this to generate red ore. And what that would do is that would allow us to set up a research station and get a lot out of it. But before we do so, I want to tackle one more thing. Coming down here, you can click on this, and we're going to build a laboratory, a research station, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to click on it up. You can see that it needs people and an extra resource to generate ideas. We're going to use the people that we have right here. We're going to do that. And we're going to use one of these resources up there to generate one additional science. Now, ideally, for efficiency-wise, you want to get this up to 3, which means we need to generate another red ore to pull into this, but we don't have any extra people to kind of send over there. That's not really something that we can easily do right now. So it's going to be a known issue. But what we can do is we're going to colonize this regardless. We're going to expand some space down here. You can see how our space is expanding to the southwest. And we are going to link this up there. And suddenly we're getting 3 research points a pop, which is going to eventually give us the ability to get some really good research here, which is going to be awesome. Now, the next quest is going to be, how do we go about finding more people? We have to send out probes, spend some time, and try to figure out, can we make this happen? Right now, these are all consuming people for processes and resources. That's not very helpful. What do we have out here at the limits of our detection range? We have a forge world, which does not generate people, but it does generate some of these extra resources, which is pretty cool. As well as Forebear Ruins, where you send people to, you get additional bonuses in-game the more people you send over there, as well as an asteroid that we can't really exploit right now because we don't have access to any of those planetary systems. So this side of the galaxy is looking pretty darn not that fantastic. We're not seeing anybody that we're able to produce resources from. We're going to use one last opportunity to see what this is over there, and it's just a rock. So this side of the galaxy is a little bit... This is going to be an unhappy planet for a little while until we can get some additional tech to get access to some of these lava and rocky worlds over there. So we're going to see what we can do on the far side. Now, again, happiness is important through this entire scenario. You can see up there that we have 5 planetary systems. We have a few more to go before we get to the next series. So let's see what we have. Looks like we got a huge swath of planetary bodies up there. We have a primordial situation, which again does not produce people, but we can get up here and try to see what we have available. Another one up there for producing rock, and finally one that with wheat, it's a hive world, will produce people. We are definitely going to do this. We're going to come up here, we're going to exploit this, get some money back in our pocket. You can see that because we spent time, we've already gained 3 resources, and we're going to be gaining 3 more. And we're going to see if we can get some wheat over here to these people, to this world. And it looks like we definitely can. So we can get wheat from that world, and we can export people to other worlds, and it'll work out pretty good. So we're going to do that. We're going to set this up over here. We're going to export. Oh, man, we made a mistake, ladies and gentlemen. And so with that, we're going to hit the undo button, come back over here, click on this, and we're going to come down here to the Arctic farm producing that wheat. So they're very happy. They are situated up, and they're well on their way to tackling the next things. We'll click this up there, send some people up there. There are some goods that are available, and you can see that as the empire is growing, new technology is available, things are moving on through. We can come down here and take a look at how to actually do some extra stuff. So, seed life on lava and mineral and primordial planets. Yeah, we definitely want to invent that. That's going to be worthwhile, because now we can come down here and we can turn these planets into different things. The ice ball hasn't squared away just yet, but turning this lava planet into a swamp, we're going to terraform that. And now suddenly we can get access to people. Now they're going to need some extra resources, but that's yet another challenge that we can work on. So here we go. We're putting this down there. They're now satisfied, but they need wheat as well as, chips. And look at that. We have some chips that we can send over, so we're going to send over some chips. And to close this loop, it looks like they just need crystal. Well, we have some crystal. So there we go. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a quick look at really the basics of this game of Slipways. You're just kind of solving one set of problems at a time and building bigger and bigger and bigger solutions as you work your way through, which is pretty awesome. I'm really enjoying this. And again, very much thank you being sent out to the developer. This has been an absolute blast. So if you get the chance, go and check out this game. I highly encourage it. This game is a lot of fun, and there's a lot to it. And remember, as always, you can always come down here and figure out, again, how to play if you're missing anything, or come down here and see what your current score is. Our empire size has grown. We haven't set up any Esteem yet. We haven't completed any of these missions just yet, but we're getting pretty close. And you can see down there for our score where we're at. We've got a few, established planets, but we're looking for successful and, if we can, some prosperous stuff. Now, as the time goes through and as you get towards the very end, we're just going to click on ahead to show you what that looks like as we generate a lot of different stuff, moving all the way down towards it. So there we go. This is what the end screen looks like. It kind of shows you, hey, forgiving our scores negative. We didn't really expand too far. We didn't do that much stuff. But if you spent a lot of time in there and actually developed your relationships between these different planets and trying to get your goods and situations and systems set on up, your happiness is going to be higher, and everything else up here is going to be a larger in your score ranking as well. And I've got a good example of what that looks like for a more developed system on the easier settings. Of course, the more difficult the settings, the higher your scores are going to be. But it's pretty darn cool. Oh yeah, I love this stuff. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I want to say thank you again to the developer for giving me the opportunity to share this game with you all. I'm very excited for this. I'm very honestly stoked. It's a lot of fun. This is a game that is definitely going to be one that is played over and over again by myself. It already is. And with all the features coming up, I don't see that changing at all. So this game is targeting maybe about 15 to 20 US dollars on release in Q2 of this year, 2021. But keep an eye out for future Steam sales if you do miss it early on. This is going to be a game that you will want to add to your collection. It is going to be a classic. I'm already stating that right now. This is going to be awesome based on what we've already seen and what's coming down the road. Again, there is a closed beta coming in April as well. Signups are currently open and can be found over at slipways.net or clicking on the link in the description of this video below to get signed up. If you want to learn more about this game or the developer, I've also included the links to their Steam, Discord, Twitter, and of course, the original Pico 8 version in the description below as well for your reference and ease of perusal. This is not the last video we'll be doing on Slipways, as I intended, and will cover the additional game modes when they become available. I'm pretty excited to explore those and share those with you. And if we get the chance, we'll most likely be putting some of that content over on our Twitch channel, so you can look for us over there. So keep your eyes on this channel here on YouTube as well for any new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you don't miss out on any of our content when it goes live. As always, ladies and gents, thank you very much for sticking around, checking this game out. I highly recommend it. And as always, I'll see you next time. Have a good one.